They have minds, and they have souls, as well as just hearts. And they've got ambition, and they've got talent, as well as just beauty. And I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it. But I'm so lonely.
Hello everyone, I know it has been a while since I uploaded and I said I would do it more frequently, but I got shit to do. Sorry. It is Valentine's Day on the day I'm writing the script, and I saw a lot of my mutuals bummed that they didn't have someone special to spend it with. That fact just broke me because they're all wonderful and I wish more people would be content in their relationship status, especially those who are still in middle school or high school. As someone who made the mistake of dating in middle school, be glad you don't lay awake at night thinking of the awkward hugs and Naruto running in the hallways. This video is going to be more philosophical than usual. It's more about my perspective and opinion on modern dating culture and how so many people force themselves into romantic relationships. Just to be clear, there is absolutely nothing wrong or shameful with being lonely or wanting someone to love you in a romantic sense. I'm not trying to claim to be a higher moral authority when it comes to romance. I get lonely and sad sometimes too, and that's okay. But lately, I've been trying to really think about why I feel that way. I love being alone, and if I had someone to go to the Met with, then I couldn't listen to music and get lost in a world I was creating. All this love, sadness, and candy around me made me question, why do we care so much about romantic relationships?
I love you.
I know.
As the moonlight crosses the land, as I reach to touch your hand, how I love our late night rendezvous.
Developing a romantic relationship isn't easy, and no matter how many self-help or pick-up books you read, it will not teach you the social skills needed to make a genuine connection. We have to take a step back and treat each other like human beings first and foremost, which you think would be easy for most people, but unfortunately, it's not. A common misconception that both men and women have is that we need to treat each other differently than we normally would any other person. I feel like men, in particular, hold women to this weird standard and treat them like they're a whole different species. They talk to women like they're a woman, not a human. They try to be this entirely different person to fit the stereotypical definition of what makes a man. And just to be clear, this is coming from a strictly heteronormative standpoint, since that is the only experience I'll be able to understand. Also, please remember, a lot of these points and opinions are based on heteronormative description of love and affection. I'm sure many LGBTQ plus people go through the constant pressure of wanting romance, but I will mostly be talking about interactions between men and women since I am straight and only really know how to take that standpoint. Love is important to everyone, regardless of gender, and I understand that it's even harder if you don't fit the conventional standards of being feminine or masculine, especially if you're non-binary. Anyways, that is a topic for another day. Let's get into the video.
With me, all alone, in the dark, in our secret place where we can't be.
It's no surprise that everyone wants to live happily ever after, trailing off into the sunset with someone who will love you unconditionally. A lot of stories end with marriage, or the two main characters officiating their mutual romantic interest. We're basically conditioned to believe that love is the end goal, the missing piece of our puzzle, but that's not what life has to be about. We can track this desire for love down to our biological roots. Species are meant to find a mate, have offspring, and repeat the cycle. But we've evolved to live life outside of the constraints of our biological needs. It simply doesn't exist anymore. People don't always have kids or marriage. We as humans have developed as a society where you could be an outlier and the human race will still go on. But that doesn't get rid of the fact that we all want to be loved, whether it be from our fathers, sisters, friends, or even dogs. Yet, even if we have that, a lot of people never claim to be satisfied with the amount of love in their life. They want a romantic relationship. This desire and need for love is one of the reasons why so many people settle or force themselves to be in a relationship all the time. Personally, I struggled with this, not to the extent of getting into a relationship every chance I got, but I often forced myself to have crushes on men around me for no reason. I felt like I had to have a crush in order to reinforce my sexuality to the people around me. If I didn't have someone to like, then I felt empty of the sorts. I realized how fucked up that was a bit later than I'd like to admit, but it further explains the extremely common desire to not only be loved, but to be in love. Even though these feelings are natural, they often destroy the current value of life. Instead of making the best of a current situation, many wonder how much better life could be if there was just another special person to share it with. Romantic relationships take time, and you don't always have to be in a relationship to be worthy of love. You are not less of a person if you have never been on a date, had sex, or done anything romantic. This is common especially amongst teenagers. With the hypersexualization of teens in the media, many feel like they are missing out by not being in a relationship or experiencing certain things before they graduate. It's not just TV shows like Riverdale or Euphoria, but it's also the result of how much social media is ingrained into the new generations. Everyone has access to anything, and that includes inside the lives of things that were often kept private. People showcase only the good parts of their relationship, which distorts the way younger people may perceive romantic interactions. There's nothing wrong with going on dates and seeking relationships, but if we're constantly chasing that desire to be loved, we don't get the chance to take a step back and assess ourselves for who we are outside the constraints of a relationship. Not to say that relationships take away your entire personality, but if we strive to live life always looking for someone to fill the void, then we lose ourselves as individuals. I don't believe you necessarily need to love yourself before you get into a relationship, but it is important to understand why you want that relationship in the first place.
Loving like we just don't care. The nighttime is the right time for us to truly.
No, they will not. I'm tired of hearing this sentence because it implies that if you want to find the love of your life, you can't be having romantic interactions. It's really dumb. Relationships are a two-way street, and even though there may be some exceptions, you have to go out of your way to connect with someone, make the first move, or just get yourself out there. However, this has been made extremely difficult due to COVID and dating apps. COVID shut down a lot of places where people made connections, and many had to isolate themselves, forcing some to reflect on the lack of romantic relationships in their life. It was a tough time for a lot of people emotionally and financially, so I understand why people want to think that, but you can't expect to have someone fall into your life. You have to create that relationship. Speaking of, let's talk about soulmates. I don't believe soulmates exist, but I do believe they are made. Whether you want to admit it or not, there will always be someone better than you, or maybe even better for you. But the difference is they don't have the same memories and experiences that you do with a long-term partner. The concept of a soulmate is also the reason why people chase the feeling of romance so often. To be loved unconditionally is a dream many of us believe will complete us. I won't pretend that the idea of someone loving you wholeheartedly isn't appealing, but like any good thing, romance takes time. However, what if you're not looking for the one? Are you dating because you want to feel something, or maybe you don't want to settle down? All those reasons are fine, but I just never understood why people establish a deep emotional connection with someone they don't see a future with. This does not include hookups, friends with benefits, or whatever. What you want out of a relationship is a very important conversation to have, but it is also perfectly acceptable to never find the one. I think finding the one person to marry isn't the only way we should be approaching romantic relationships. I think that the notion of finding the one and settling down is slowly becoming more and more outdated. Women no longer have to depend on men for financial independence, so we are seeing more and more women choosing to be single forever, or only having casual relationships. According to an article by Insider, unmarried, childless women are statistically the happiest demographic in the world. That is mostly because men benefit from marriage more than women do. This is mostly because even though women work the same amount as men, they are often left to take care of the housework and children if they have any. The study also said, in spite of the advantages of an unmarried, childless existence for women, Mr. Dolan said the fact marriage and children were seen to be traditional established emblems of success meant the stigma could cause some single women to feel unhappy. This doesn't just apply to women, but men often get into relationships because they lack an emotional relationship in their life. because society often tells them they need to bottle it all up, especially around other men. And that is a possible reason why men in particular want a romantic relationship. We can see the difference of needs between men and women if we take a closer look into the culture of dating apps.
But you belong to another, and so do I.
Even if there are some exceptions to finding someone on a dating app, it's overall a horrible system that only promotes hookup culture. They can make people feel disposable, almost like you're on an advertisement. And even if you have a profile, it's all about looks. You can't fall in love with a personality over a few Q&As and pictures. Dating has become a game of who can respond to a text the slowest, so you don't show that you care too much, but you still want to talk because you're interested enough. It's such a dumb concept because it's not bad to care about someone, even if you've just met them. You shouldn't feel ashamed for texting back within 10 minutes. That's the point of having a phone. You're being judged constantly on apps, but with the pandemic and the importance of an online presence, people's need for validation is often gotten online. It's easier to meet people than confront them in real life. Dating apps perpetuate a world where sex and looks are the most important part of a relationship. No one wants to settle down because how could they when dating apps allow them to see the entire world and potentially a better match? Dating apps don't just hurt women. Men also suffer from this alienation. And when you're a decently attractive guy, you just get more swipes. Women are inherently better looking than men because they put more effort into their appearance, clothing styles, and teach themselves good angles. Whether this is a product of the patriarchy or not is a conversation for another day. And a lot of men in the past were so successful with their love lives because of their personality. You don't have to be conventionally attractive to find a partner, except on dating apps. Dating apps kind of force us to objectify ourselves and wonder, am I fuckable or not? Am I attractive or not? Because the first thing people see on dating apps is not the nerdiest thing about you. Having a stranger you find attractive liking your profile is certainly an ego boost and validates you. But dating apps aren't meant to make you happy. They're meant to satisfy you short term like any other social media site. There's nothing wrong or embarrassing about using them, but think about why you are using them in the first place and why it's so hard to get rid of. Deleting your account means you no longer get validation from random men or women, which can be fairly intoxicating. Dating apps suck, especially when you don't fit the beauty standard.
Say goodbye. One day this has to come to an end. Either we're lovers or either we're friends, but until then.
Just to be clear, I benefited from the beauty standard. I'm not going to lie. I'm a cis white skinny girl and I've never had to worry about people not being interested in me because of my weight. I had an extreme case of cystic acne when I was younger, leaving me some acne scars and red skin, but I never struggled to find security in myself because of my weight. I have more masculine features and wear suits often, so I don't particularly consider myself to be the beauty standards, but I have been both the ugly and decently attractive kid. Fitting the beauty standard does go hand in hand with wanting romantic relationships, because when you've never actually had a romantic experience, you start to want it more and wish you had something that seems to complete people. Many beautiful people preach about the benefits of being single, which are very important and most likely true, but they can easily change their mind. They won't have a harder time getting a significant other because the majority of the world finds them attractive. We like to see pretty people. We are all shallow to some extent. I care about looks somewhat in a partner, and I think we all should, but that doesn't mean your opinion of them can't change because of their personality. I have certainly liked people I didn't think were attractive before until I saw their personality. But that further proves why dating apps suck, because when you have a stellar personality but don't fit society's standards of attractiveness, you won't find anyone on those apps. The way we view beauty has a huge effect on our personal relationships. A lot of people have internalized misogyny, racism, or homophobia, which subconsciously affects our dating lives. Whiteness has, and still unfortunately is, the beauty standard in a lot of places, which makes people cross out dating certain races altogether. There is a difference between having a preference and just being racist. I prefer black hair, but that isn't exclusive to one race. These internalized preferences have made dating even harder for women of color because they constantly have to ask themselves if their partner likes black women or decide if their partner is fetishizing them. Fitting the beauty standard plays a lot into how successful our dating lives will be. We may never meet the one. We may never go on more than a few dates, and it sucks. I'm not gonna say, oh, you'll meet the right one someday. You may not. I may not. It sucks, but that reason is why we need to put friendships and family at the center of our lives rather than a romantic relationship that doesn't exist yet.
How I love her late night running. By the look in their eyes, I can see suspicion.
This is something I've always wondered about because I've been fairly content with my friends and I never really needed a romantic relationship to make me feel happier emotionally. That could be due partly because I am asexual, but that doesn't mean I haven't struggled with finding romantic partners. It's very hard when you like romance, but you don't like sex. Why do we have to view our partners as number one and not someone who we've spent twice as long with? Is it because we live with them, or is it because we're told that marriage is the ending we should all strive for? I can't answer any of those questions, but I never understood why people expect you to have the same level of connection with your partner that you do with your long-term friend. I believe you should be best friends with your partner, don't get me wrong, but you need to have your own life. You need to have your own friends that aren't part of his circle. Sure, you can hang out together, but why do couples need to have this joint party? I never really understood that. I saw this firsthand when my parents were still married. Their friends often overlapped and very rarely did I see them go out individually to hang out with their friends. In fact, I don't think they had many friends outside each other at all. This is mostly because marriage and children can become very isolating, and raising kids takes up a lot of your free time, so you can't really establish a long-term friendship when you have no time to visit them. This is also common amongst younger couples when they start to ignore everyone else and go through their honeymoon phase, where the only people who matter are each other. Blech. Unfortunately, I lost some friends due to their emphasis on a romantic relationship. They were always with each other, stopped hanging out with us, and so on. It hurt because we had a friendship that lasted years, but the moment a man walks in, he deserves all the attention. I think we as people need to find a balance between the two. If we spend our time with our significant other, we lose the very foundations of who we are, our hobbies, friends, interests, etc. If your partner cannot handle you being your own person, then they are not worth your time. We deserve alone time. We deserve to have multiple intimate relationships. Being close with your childhood best friend doesn't diminish the intimacy of a partner. They are simply just different relationships that are equally as important. The greater emphasis we put on romantic relationships, the more we miss out on maintaining fantastic friendships that could last decades. We should put friendships at the center of our lives because you don't need to satisfy them sexually or worry if you look good enough. A good friend will be there for you regardless, and that is something people need more than an inconsistent lover. Romance is very important, and I'm not trying to say we don't need it, but it's okay to be single. It's okay to feel lonely and sad as long as it doesn't severely affect your well-being or hurt other people. If we put the same emphasis on romantic relationships, on friendships, I believe we will be much happier people knowing that even if we don't find the one, we still have people who will love us regardless. If you want a romantic relationship, start with friendship. Find value in yourself instead of feeling broken because of a partner who is not in your life yet. I hope more of us can find love within the world around us instead of someone else. The longer we wait for someone to come into our lives, the more we lose sight of who we are as an independent vessel. Don't let a lack of a partner define your worth or who you are. I'm always open for conversation, so if you have another approach to this or something you disagree with, feel free to put your thoughts in the comments. I left out a lot of things about this topic, particularly the importance of romantic relationships with men and how it kind of drives them to be an incel and be brutal to women. So if you have more about that topic, I'd love to see your perspective on it and anything else you might add. Just be respectful. Anyways, this was a different video than what I normally do, so I hope you like the change of pace and enjoyed this more conversational topic rather than reactionary content. As always, have a wonderful day.